gosh, move this. All right. So I have some notes here that we can go over that Patrick was kind of alluding to. So to start off with, do you need a portfolio? You don't, but it would probably help. And there's some reasons like why it would help. Keeping everything in one place. So these are kind of self-explanatory, right? If you're applying for jobs and you can only put so much on a resume. You want to keep it to like the standard one page. It gives you an opportunity to put more details into the projects or explanations as to what went into the solution that allows you to be a little bit more verbose than you would be on a resume. Kind of this one spot or a one-stop shop idea where you have your projects that you can link directly to the source code. And so if somebody wants to get an idea of your skill set, you can kind of highlight it all in the one place and then direct them to these resources. And then the third point there is just marketing yourself. So again, the portfolio could be a project in and of itself. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But also just if you want to take advantage of trying to freelance for something or just demonstrate kind of your skills, then it's also a way to market yourself. So once you get, or at least it's been my experience that I use my portfolio a lot early on, and then as the years have gone by, it has become less and less of a thing that I throw out first. But it's still been useful for clients and such, or for marketing purposes, where somebody sees that and then gets a hold of me, or I can direct people directly to that. But it's not when I first started getting, or when I first got started, it was kind of like a let me show you what I can do type of thing, instead of trying to explain to somebody or go over code or whatever. Theoretically, it's a great way to just say, here, let me show you. These are all the things I can do, and then you can play around with it on your own time. So I think there's a lot of power in that, rather than just trying to talk about it, because there's that visual aspect. So where to find resources for inspiration. So this is where I kind of wanted to jump into things, because I get this question a lot. So I had Pinterest and awards. So I don't know those are the two of the places that I've gone for inspiration. I pretty think everybody's familiar with Pinterest. But if not, basically you can go to web design and get boards for, or you can even do web portfolio. And I've pulled a lot of inspiration off of Pinterest. I don't even use it for anything, but this is one that has helped me. The other one that I've recommended to people is Awards. And I always spell that wrong. This is just an organization that pulls the best of different websites and different categories and stuff. And it's very design heavy. Or as a last result, you can just Google it. There's tons of template sites and demo sites and stuff on the internet for inspiration. And the reason I kind of want to lead into the inspiration is what I hope through these workshops every week is tonight, hopefully we can talk about it a little bit, talk about the why we would need it, where to find inspiration. We'll talk a little bit about what makes a good portfolio and some of these surface questions, but I also want to use it as a primer for folks to start thinking about what they would like their portfolio to look like. And there was a question the other day, well, do we need projects or anything? And the answer is no. When Patrick and I were working through his portfolio, we had some projects in mind that we were going to add, but we just put placeholders in place as where the projects would go. So you don't, even if you don't have stuff to fill it in now, we can add placeholders to it. And as you develop projects, then you can just fill those in, and you already have the portfolio done. So it kind of like makes things a lot easier. They just kind of fill in. So yeah, any other resources that folks have looked into for inspiration that you want to like share with the group, or any thoughts on the kind of the designing it? I feel like maybe a lot of the folks in the group are more back end focused than front end. But yeah, anybody have any thoughts or questions on this so far?
I don't.
Okay.
Super
Cool.
lively crowd.
Yeah, that's good. So getting like the inspiration and stuff out of the way, talk a little bit about what makes a good portfolio. So let's embarrass Patrick a little bit. Let's bring up his portfolio.
Watch is probably broken again.
Nope. So let's toss this here. So as we mentioned, like with what you'd want on the portfolio, direct links to projects and source code is probably like the most obvious, but also like makes a good portfolio. Whenever I've been looking at resumes and I see, all right, they've got a portfolio linked, it's almost like, okay, cool, I'm just going to go there and take a look at what they've decided to highlight. So it's kind of like your opportunity to push your best projects to the top. And so a little bit of this like goes into just regular web design ideas. So pushing your, you want the portfolio to be free of bugs. Like the last thing you'd want is for somebody to go say, all right, let's see what this person's capable of visiting the site, and then there being an error. And so if it's like if that portfolio, if the first impression is of bugs, then what that, I guess it doesn't just leave a very good first impression. But yeah, containing featured projects or projects that you'd definitely want them to see first towards the top or above the fold. In this case, it's the very first thing that Patrick's got. Having links directly out to both the project as it is, if it's hosted somewhere, if it's not hosted publicly, potentially like uploading it to your site so that there is some real way to integrate or to interact with it, and then links directly to the source code. Again, of most things, like that combination, and then a short description is what the real benefit that you're going to get out of a portfolio site. That's what people are looking for. The descriptions, the way I've always tackled them is this is the opportunity to be more verbose than what you'd be able to do on a resume, and then kind of think of it as like, what was the problem, what was the solution, and then how did you go about solving it? So it's like, this is a client, I wanted to build a tip calculator or expense tracker or a meme generator, whatever. This was the problem that was proposed to me. Or if you have client work, like, this is the site, they were looking for a rebrand, wanted a new modern design, this is kind of the problem. How I went about it. So I started and knew I would need a database for this project. I knew I'd need a modern design, so I researched modern designs and found one that the client liked. Or I kind of just like, what was the thought process behind it, and then the final, what was the solution. So I implemented it using Laravel PHP framework with Bootstrap CSS, and attached it to a MySQL database. Or I utilized an MVC framework. And that's kind of the opportunity to be a little bit more technical, because again, you want to try and explain what was your solution and how did that, if you have any results for a client, or like quantitative or qualitative results that have come of that. If it's a personal thing, maybe it's like I don't know, I built again, like use the expense tracker since it's right in front of me. It's like, I built this thing, and then the result was, I used it. I started using it in my everyday life, and, it's been a good mobile application that has worked, on my phone, that I've been able to use and reduce my expenses, type of thing. But again, like, what was the value in what did the solution create? What value or impact did it have, is kind of wrapped up in that third point. And so as somebody who's looking at the portfolio, and I can see in that kind of, right, these are the things they've done, this has been their thought process and how they've tackled things, these are the technologies that they're familiar with and how they solved things, and then this is like they understand the value that came out of doing this. So that's typically how you like present that information ultimately is up to you, and how you want to design and lay out the portfolio. But those are the types of things that I think make a good portfolio. What else did I have on here? Oh yeah. So blog articles and video. So this is great to just have projects, and this kind of ties into the marketing. Like, if you sort of, I don't know how many people saw G Marie's post in the Discord on making fetch. So, and I thought that was awesome. And that's sort of like what I'm talking about here, is taking what and putting it into a blog article or a video or something that's like sharing it. And I thought hers specifically it was really unique, because the way she did it with the puppies and stuff. But like it's saying like, not only is it like to your benefit to write it out and understand it, but when you share it and you make it accessible, then me, who's looking at, what is this person interested in? What type of things are they posting about? What are they sharing? And to see that you're like, quote unquote expert, or you have experience in all these areas because you've talked about them, you've written about them, or you've made videos, you've shared like this content. It boosts, it's just another opportunity for me to like see and know, and then it kind of works in your benefit, because when you have content like that, you can share it out over LinkedIn or other professional networks, and or you could use it as references in an interview or in an application. You could reference these articles or videos as like work samples, because they are demonstrating your knowledge and expertise around certain topics. I think that's another way, that you can leverage the portfolio site to just, and it doesn't have to be all the time or super time consuming. If it's like once a month or, every couple of weeks that you update something. And so in G Marie's case, she's using Medium, and that's okay too. It's like if you have a portfolio and you link out to your blog and you're using something like Medium, a third party, under your name, that works too. So yeah. Any questions on kind of the content and things that you'd want to be thinking about when you're looking at layouts, or thinking about layouts of what type of stuff you'd want to add into a portfolio?
Yeah, I have a question. So one of the projects that I have in mind right now, it's kind of an extension of a current project that I have. I want to create an API to support that connects that with a database, and to help us support the overall project, right? As the way to retrieve information from a back end and pass it over to the front end. What would be a good way to, like feature that project? Like say you build an API into a a portfolio? Like, what's a good way to display, like, this is one of the projects I created in API?
Yeah. So two different ways. You can either go host that on its own and link out to it. If it's just like an API that doesn't have a UI, maybe adding just a simple UI to it and link it, and that links out to it, and then kind of it's like a landing page that goes out to the API and then brings back some data and then text that describes. It could even be like a page of your portfolio that's like you reach out to your own API that you have hosted somewhere. You get back some data, and then your description of problem, solution, results is kind of like, hey, this is live. This is what it does. It reaches out to this endpoint, returns this JSON. This is how I'm parsing the JSON. That's one way. If you can, I mean, I think that's how I would tackle it. And I would either self-host that API directly, or if I've got that running somewhere else, like hosted separately, you can still reach out and hit that API. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yes. I think I was also thinking like part of the URL that where the API is hosted.
Mhm.
One of it could be, like you said, like a landing page where I have the documentation for how it works and that type of thing. But that's not like there's no visual. I don't think it visually looks nice, but that might be an example of what I can put up as like one of the pictures that goes along with the description of it.
Yeah, the other thing, like with APIs specifically, there, and again, I don't want to like necessarily complicate things more, but there is this doc called Swagger, and it's a framework for API documentation, and they have a nice like UI. And basically that's what it is. It's like a way to document APIs, and they give you a nice UI. Let's see if I can get to.
Is this called Swagger?
Yeah. I know they have like an online.
Oh yeah, the whole.
It's Swagger UI. Let's see this demo. Yeah, so it gives you something like this, and you might have like seen this if you ever look at like documentation for like another API. This is pretty popular as far as a standard for documenting APIs, and it's open source. So if you dive into this and you just generate API documentation, this could be something like or at least attached to the page that is describing the project, the API. You could link out to a generated Swagger doc. And so these are interactive. It's like, you click on this and it's like, this is my URL. I make a post request, and this is the data I'm going to send. I'm going to send an ID of the pet, some additional metadata, and or a file to upload. And then what it returns is a 200, which is a successful operation. And here's a snippet of like what that looks like. And so if you basically annotate, so they have an example of, so this file, I'm just going to paste this up here, is what Swagger's reading, and all it is a JSON file, and it looks like this. It's like paths, it lists the paths, it's a post request, and so this may be like overkill for like your use case, but or not. This could be something interesting to look at, to help document your API, and then you could link directly to the Swagger generated page, which would give you a UI similar to this, just from creating a JSON file like this. Also, this is like a skill in of itself, like to be familiar with that. So, because it is a standard that a lot of companies use when it comes to like API documentation and stuff. So that's another thing that you could potentially explore as far as documenting an API.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. What other questions do we have so far? All right. So I'm going to skip the host for a second and jump down to this bullet point, types of portfolios. So if folks are like, if you're less excited about working on the front end like me, yeah, it doesn't like make you super excited and make you go crazy to write JavaScript and CSS all the time. In my opinion, it's okay to like go find a template or go find a portfolio that is like the front end's basically written, or you can just customize it, or even just, you know, pull things from a couple of different sources. So it gets you, you know, something that is in line with what you want to decide or design, but is ultimately, you know, takes the weight of coming up with all the code from scratch on your own. Especially if like most of your projects are back end stuff. So this is what I've done when I've designed my portfolios. I've been less particular about creating the whole design from scratch and writing every piece of the portfolio, because my projects are mostly back end and I wasn't going to necessarily use my portfolio as a portfolio item. If though you are, you know, heavily focused on front end and that's the type of stuff you want to do, then you probably would, you know, be more than happy starting from scratch and writing everything on the front end yourself, maybe not even using, you know, a framework just to get a, you know, to demonstrate your ability to write, you know, vanilla JavaScript, vanilla CSS, stuff like that. But that's not necessarily a requirement in my opinion. I think that's kind of a gray area. Some people are like, oh, well, if it's a portfolio and you're going into web development, then why would you use a template? You should design it yourself. For me, it's always been like a trade-off between how much time do I really want to invest in this versus, you know, having a portfolio that has the actual projects that I want somebody to see for the actual type of work that I want to do. So if that's what you're thinking to yourself is like, oh man, I really think that, you know, my focus is going to definitely be on back end and most of my projects are back end focus. And I really, you know, the thought of trying to come up with a whole, you know, front end UI design only for a portfolio sends shivers down your spine, then I think it's okay to go find templates or go find a few sites and pull some of that code together to save you the struggle of doing all the front end and UI stuff from scratch. I don't think it makes you look any less of a developer. If it's clean and nice and I can see your projects, then I can clearly see that like you're back end focused. That experience and that, you know, cleanliness in the portfolio, I think outweighs the you trying to throw something together that looks like garbage because that's not your specialty type of thing. So wanted to toss that out there too, because I know I've talked to some folks who don't go down the portfolio route because they don't want to start designing and it just takes them forever and they get hung up on that first step and so they don't ever get started. And then the meat of kind of what I want to talk about tonight, and we can kind of walk through this for the rest of the time if nobody else has any other questions, is where to host your portfolio. So I don't know how many folks have gone through and actually deployed a site anywhere and ran it like off of a server or off of anything other than localhost. But ultimately, when you have your portfolio and these projects, you're going to have some place to host and run them. I did a lot of digging today for alternatives. Heroku has kind of been the staple in this area, and I went looking today for anything else that's entered the market other than Heroku. And for the free market, as it like not paying for anything, they're still the only ones that offer this after a free 100% free tier without requiring credit card details or anything, to the best of my knowledge. AWS, Google Cloud, and some other platforms have free tiers. DigitalOcean has the $5 a month thing. So there's a lot of inexpensive ways to get access to servers where you can deploy your stuff. Heroku still seems to be the only one that is offering it for free, that isn't garbage. So let's see. Yeah, so this is pretty much what you get if anybody's interested. And we can go through just kind of setting this up. And if you guys want to on your end and just want to set up your Heroku account in the future, like as I do one here in a second, because as we go, I think this is going to be the best place for us as a group over the next few weeks to start deploying changes and start deploying code to Heroku. And then, you know, once you get that under your belt, then you can start deploy. The way I see this going is we can keep syncing up about portfolios. We can kind of talk about more about the deployment process next week and getting started with actual code. But ultimately, like everybody's going to develop their own portfolio, and we can kind of continue to meet weekly to help folks out and continue that going. But we want to be deploying that code somewhere so that we can, so that it's accessible to everybody. So I think it's important that we tackle the Heroku bit and make sure everybody's comfortable with deploying to it, so you can start deploying your code for your portfolio as you're working on it. So if anybody that wanted to follow along with this is also being recorded. So I'll trim it up so that anybody who's not here can watch it. And then also if you want to go back and kind of watch anything from this, it'll be posted in the Discord. And so you can do that. So you don't have to follow along right now. Or if you already have an account, then you're set. We'll go sign up. You guys just Heroku.com. So let's see. Name. What's my role? Something running around outside. Oh yeah, and the other benefit to Heroku is that they offer pretty much every language there as a backend language. So I know some folks are coming from Ruby backgrounds or Rails backgrounds. Some people are doing Python. You might want to write your whole thing in JavaScript and use JavaScript on the backend with Node. So Heroku supports all these languages. So let's just say Ruby. Let's see. Must be a minute. How did it change? Hardest part. There we go. All right. this here. Cool. And it's signing me into my other account. There we go. All right, so should end up at a screen like this, unless Heroku changes their stuff. Let's go create a new app. Let's call it Portfolio. Call it whatever you want. Start it with a lowercase letter. Portfolio is not available. Oh, these must be unique. Let's call it TU Portfolio. That is available. Cool. I believe this is the name. When you deploy the site, it's going to be something like appname.heroku.something.com. So that's where this name comes in. So you can technically name it whatever you want. You can name it gibberish, but it's going to be used in like your Heroku URL for your app. All right. So then this is the screen you'll get to when you add that. And I think if everybody gets this far between tonight and next week, who wants to start working on these portfolios together, this is a good spot to pick up next week and actually downloading the Heroku CLI. So how Heroku kind of works is it works just like Git. So when you install Git and you're familiar with your Git pushes, like Git commits, all this stuff, Heroku works the exact same way. You download their CLI, you do a Heroku login. It'll give you, you log in using your credentials, and then you do your Git init. That gives you, your repository and a directory, and then you git add, git commit, and git push, but you push to Heroku instead of origin when you push it, but you're pushing directly to a Git repo. It's just going to be Heroku's repo instead of like a GitHub URL. And from there, Heroku will go and deploy it. And we can dive more into exactly how that works and demo that next time. But I think, yeah, if everybody gets a Heroku account set up into this page, then we'd be in good company to pick up with this next week. Anybody have any questions on Heroku or anything I just went through or anything like that?
What's the spelling again?
Heroku, Heroku. I can toss it in chat.
Thanks.
There we go. How's everybody feel about that game plan of getting Heroku accounts, circling back? We can go through setting up the project locally and doing a first deploy to Heroku next week based on whatever language you want to use on the back end, and then just kind of going to town and finding designs. I think also between now and next week, if you want to try and pull together some inspiration or some ideas for a portfolio, that'll help you stay up and on track with everybody else. And yeah, I mean, the goal of these workshops is to, this is important and something that everybody's going to need. And I think if we just all kind of start on it together and meet weekly to kind of talk about the process and get over any obstacles or hurdles in getting it up. And if somebody's up against like a design issue or deployment issue or something like that, you can bring those with you. And then maybe when we start getting code, we can rotate on each week and look at somebody's portfolio and work on it together or something like that.
Definitely with that. Sounds great.
But if we don't have an idea, you still want us to go in and try it, right?
Yeah, if you have an idea, I mean, what I don't want to do is like basically make this a live tutorial walkthrough and just like everybody builds the same portfolio. I mean, that would be easy, but that would, you know, I don't think anybody would actually learn. And then that removes the creative control from everybody, and everybody's going to be able to, you know, should design the portfolio that fits what they want to showcase. So, yeah, after like next week, we'll make sure that everybody's set on Heroku. But yeah, if you have ideas, any point want to start pulling them together and start coding stuff, then we can certainly start jumping in on that as a team and helping make sure everybody is making progress on their portfolios and are getting over any hiccups and stuff like that.
And once again, for front end, you're saying that we can basically use like Bootstrap. Don't necessarily have to go crazy. That's
Yeah.
not.
So yeah, so let's see. What's one of the sites? Oh gosh, what was that site?
Like in Pinterest, that's where you were?
No, I mean that's where you can go for inspiration. But if you like, let's go portfolio templates. Trying to remember what the oh, let's just click on one of these. Can't remember what the site was, but let's say here, this is a portfolio one. This is a one-page portfolio. It's available like for download. Like this would get you like 90% of the way there. What I'm saying with like the portfolios is if you absolutely like want to like know that you're focused. I mean, if you go and you just start using templates, you rob yourself of the like experience in actually like developing it yourself. But what I'm saying is if your preference and most of your work is going to be on the back end, I don't think it's worth like tripping and stumbling over getting started because it's going to be all front end stuff, and that's not where your like specialty is. So it's like better just to start with something like this that gets you 85-90% of the way there, so that you can focus on populating it with good projects and yeah, the literature and copy for, you know, how you solve those problems and things like that. But yeah, you could, what I'm saying that about what I was saying is like you could use something like this to get you started with getting the portfolio together, and then go in here and like change it around and swap out the images and, you know, maybe remove some things that you don't want and make it yours a little bit. But like I said, this gets you like 85-90% of the way there.
All right.
Or you're free to start from scratch and or start with just like a bootstrap and go, you know, turn it into whatever you want.
I had a question about Heroku. If we have an application that has a backend and a database to support it, does that all live in the same application inside of Heroku, or does there need to be a separate place for that database to live?
That'll exist in the same application in Heroku. So if I go to resources here, I think let's go to like Postgres. Yeah, Heroku Postgres. It is like this add-on resource in here. So like I would choose the free plan and I could provision that. And so Heroku is going to give me a database for this project and it's going to tell me like how I can connect to that database. And I think they probably have one for they don't have one for MySQL. But yeah, it's going to be in this same project. I have to dig into like more of the add-ons to figure out specifics, but yeah. To answer your question.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be using Postgres, so if they don't have MySQL, that's fine.
Okay. I figured if anybody, if anybody was going to be using a database, it'd be one of those two. How many folks here already have an idea of what they're going to do for their portfolio, as far as like layout or potentially even started on a portfolio?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I haven't created anything yet. I've begun to have ideas for it of what I want to showcase, but nothing yet.
Okay. Chip, you started on anything or have any ideas?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm like in the middle of a conversation as well with
Oh.
one of my family members. But you asked me if I have ideas for my portfolio, like
Yeah, you
my
started thinking
deployment and
about
everything.
this?
Yeah, I've kind of thought about just having like a vanilla JavaScript like set of like a little game kind of. I don't know. And then, like obviously have like a portfolio page that's like my like personal information, maybe like a little like a typical like almost resume type of feel or whatever. But then like have a just like a little I don't know. I was thinking like maybe 10 page or however many like 8-10 pages of just like little games and whatnot. Just because I do want to show that. I mean, I'm pretty much going to be searching for my first job, so I do want to like kind of take almost whatever I can get just to like break into the industry. So I do want to show like my front end skills, although I do want to like focus on the back end more. Like I feel like I would be. I don't know back end very well. I'm just getting into it honestly. So but I do see myself as more of a back end type of person from what I've like seen of it so far. So. But yeah, that's kind of like my sort of idea. Like, does that sound like something that's typical or like kind of seen before?
Yeah, it doesn't sound bad at all. So I think that would work. That'd be cool. Awesome. Rebecca, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I have one that's a little shooting game that I found from a 1984 theater cookbook that I'm updating to nowadays. That they have that they were using some of the 1980s slang, and I was just going to keep the slang terms and just update it to nowadays. I'm just trying to make it look like a 1980s game.
Oh, I see. That sounds cool.
It's from 1983.
Cool.
As a tribute to that game, to the book.
Cool. Yeah, great. think that's everything that I wanted to cover tonight. With this, Patrick, do you have anything else you wanted to add? Patrick's just going to kind of be my co-host with this since he just went through this whole creating a portfolio and this process and such. So
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add. I guess the biggest thing is just making sure that they understand, the idea of why we're doing this, which you kind of mentioned is to get the experience of not just building a portfolio, but coding, setting up a live server, and stuff like that. And obviously, like if you want to get a head start, which you should anyways, like your homework should be trying to think of designs and stuff like that. So that when we gather next week, we don't have to spend our entire time trying to help you guys find that inspiration on your own, stuff like that. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
yeah, no, that sounds good. I think if everybody came with a general idea of what they want to do, we can kick off with making sure everybody's set up locally on their machine for Heroku and can do a hello world deploy. And then from there, everybody can kind of, take the following week and start working on portfolio stuff and getting some code up and live, and we can start sharing it with each other and, take it from there. I think that gives us a good game plan for the next couple weeks. If folks just, think of what you want to do for your portfolio, what technologies it's going to use. Is it going to be all JavaScript? Are you going to have a Rails backend, a Python backend, a Node.js backend, and we'll get Heroku set up next week, so you can start pushing code to it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Nobody else has any other questions? Then you can either change the topic to anything else that anybody else wants to talk about, or we can call it a night. Up to y'all.
I've only done JavaScript and Python, so I mean, I do them all the way in Python anyway. So I guess the back end is going to be on that.
I mean, you can grow, you can like evolve the back end. I mean, for a portfolio site, there's really not a ton. So let's say like you could have an entirely front end site. You could deploy it to Heroku statically, and it's just 4 HTML pages. It's like your home page. You click, goes to another HTML page, goes to another HTML page, or like even in Patrick's case, these are just links all down to other parts on the page. So it's only one page. He has a Node.js server that actually serves this page, but you could deploy it to Heroku without really needing a backend at all. It just serves it up. But if you wanted to start playing around with like a Flask thing, you could also do that and deploy it with Flask specifically to serve the pages and do your routing and things like that. So, it could just be like static pages for now though. And then you could, as time goes on and you pick up more skills, you can always go back to the portfolio and add to it.
Adding and removing. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And I think we have a range of folks who are at different points and their experience and stuff they want to try out. So I think we're going to have some people that, approach their portfolio a little bit differently, and hopefully we can kind of learn from each other and take a look at, over the coming weeks, the way different people have set up their portfolio. What are they using? Let's take a look at their code and, how that's implemented, things like that.
We can always dive deeper into back end stuff later on after we get the portfolio itself up. Like if you guys want to start adding blogs like we mentioned earlier and all that type of stuff. So
yeah, certainly. I think, at the end of this, not only ideally are you going to have a portfolio, but you're also going to be able to deploy to a server and have both, back end and, a place to deploy back end stuff and a place to deploy front end stuff. So the potential to dive into anything, after this one example, is kind of whatever direction we want to go, whatever we want to talk about. So kind of opens that door.
This isn't really that important, but does Heroku allow us to pick our own domain, or does it have to be name.herokuapp.com?
It does allow, it may not be on the free tier though. I don't remember if you can add custom domains on the free tier. They may want monies from you to be able to do that. I'm not sure. It may not. I'd have to look. And let me go to settings here and see if custom domains is domains. Your app can be found at add domain. Let's do like I don't know. This is a test.com.
It looks like you can configure DNS over to the left there, Paul. So you probably have to configure it before you can add the domain.
Oh, that's not helpful. That error, what this thing told me was I need to add a credit card.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So maybe please verify your account. So I don't know offhand if they just want me to add a credit card to verify my account and it's still going to be free to add the custom domain, or if they're going to then tell me to upgrade and pay for it. I don't know offhand. The answer to that.
Yeah, cool. I was just curious.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like anything ridiculous, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's ridiculous. In fact, I feel part of me feels like you just have to verify it before they'll let you assign it, but it's still free because I think they just make their money off of the dynos. So dynos in like Heroku speak is like an instance of a server. So that could be your application server, or it could be the database server. And so their free version, you get like very little RAM and very little CPU access and all that stuff. So if you're running anything that was like high load or production, you'd want to definitely allocate more resources, like bigger dynos to it. And that's where they basically make their money. So part of me feels like it's still going to be free, but you have to just go through the verification process on the account, which requires adding a credit card, but I think it's still free.
Yeah, from what I'm reading on their website, I just Googled it. It does look like it's free. The only thing you'd have to pay for is the domain itself to register it.
Yep, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess, is there any questions moving forward as far as like what you guys need to do to get next week moving forward? All right, I guess we're going to talk about memes now.
All right.
Paul, you're going to have to kick that one off. I'm not good with those.
I don't.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, somebody's partying. They're like, oh, they're good. They're done talking. It's time to party. Yeah, I don't know. That's all we had planned for this evening. Anybody can toss in, or we can disbar.
I guess I do have one last thing, actually, and this is kind of a question. Like, is there anything that me and Paul can do better to help you guys out with this? Like, is there anything you don't understand or anything you want to see? I mean, eventually we'll dive in deeper to all of this, but we want to make sure you guys are having fun with everything too, because, I mean, coding, half the reason you do code isn't just for good money. It's because you want to do it. So
Word, yeah, no, I'm excited. I was just it's been a little busy here. I'm at my kid's house, so it's been a little bit in and out and stuff. But so I haven't been able to really chime in all night. And plus, I got here a little late. But no, I mean it sounds terrific, honestly, and I'm thoroughly excited to get started working with you with you and Paul. I saw you present last week. Hey, thanks again, Patrick. But yeah, no, I'm definitely excited for sure. I appreciate you guys.
Sweet. Cool. I mean, I guess that wraps it up, Paul.
Cool.